What's up, guys? It's Master Joda here, back with another Clash Royale video. Today we're going to be playing HOG Mini P.E.KKA Princess. This is my favorite HOG Rider deck in the game. It's one of my favorite decks of all time, really. Such a fun deck. I like it a lot better than the 2.6 HOG Rider variation, just because there's just a lot more fun, high-pressure plays that you can make with this deck. You got the Mini P.E.KKA that you can split lane push with. You got the Princess that you can spam at the bridge if you need damage. It's just, and of course you have the Rocket to deal with things such as Sparky and Balloon and stuff like that. It's just a really fun deck. You can Rocket Cycle if you really need to, and yeah, it's just one of my favorite decks. So let's go ahead and get into some of this gameplay and see how we play it. So getting into this first matchup we got here, we're playing an Elixir Golem player. So this is like every Elixir Golem matchup pretty much. This is going to be kind of an aggravating game. And he's got Sparky, so that's going to be kind of tricky to get around. Sparky is a pretty good answer to HOG Rider and HOG Rider decks, but luckily we have the Rocket to deal with that, so that is a great thing I love about this deck. If you don't like playing Sparky, Rocket is one of the best answers to Sparky in the game, maybe the best answer to it. So let's just see how this game plays out. So we got a nice damage lead on him right there with the HOG and Bats. You can start off really aggressive with this deck, guys, with the HOG and Bats, and that's what I love about it. It's not really too dangerous of a play because it will draw out a lot of Elixir. Right here in this situation, guys, I actually messed up. I shouldn't have dropped my Mini P.E.KKA that early. I should have waited to see what he dropped, and I could have kited that Mini P.E.KKA and the minions to the opposite lane with my Ice Golem, and then I could have dropped the Mini P.E.KKA on that Elixir Golem to deal with it. But yeah, that was my bad there. And now we are kind of in a hole. You don't want to be in a one tower down situation against Elixir Golem, and the guy BM'd us. So once he BM'd us, we were kind of triggered, and we had to turn it up a notch on him. So let's see how we climb out of this one, guys. Yeah, he's still giving us the BM, so I'm kind of like, oh man, I have to win this game now. And we're going to do all we can to do that, guys. So let's see what happens. So we're kind of even on Elixir right now, about 30 seconds away from double Elixir. And like I was saying earlier, guys, you can pressure either lane. You can go opposite lane, same lane with that Mini P.E.KKA. It's just a great high pressure card. And if you place that Ice Golem in front of it, it's just going to give it a shield. So I went pretty aggressive there, got some pretty good damage on the tower. And let's see how we deal with this Elixir Golem push right here. So he's got the Elixir Golem coming to us. We're going to drop the Mini P.E.KKA. With Elixir Golem, guys, you want to get that Elixir Golem down to the second form of it, and then you're going to log it and try and get some of those smaller blobs with the log. If you're playing Elixir Golem, you want to focus on getting that Elixir Golem taken care of, so you can get that big Elixir advantage back, and you'll be able to defend much better once you get that big burst of Elixir. So his Inferno Tower is going down. We outcycle his answer right there, and we get back to another HOG Rider. And we're going to be able to take that tower down. We're going to pressure with a Mini P.E.KKA right there. That Mini P.E.KKA is not going to get a hit. And like, guys, we're just pressuring. Like, so with pressuring with that Mini P.E.KKA there, he didn't have enough Elixir in his hand to support his E-Golem. So we were just able to wreck it with Bats there. And we're going to get a big amount of Elixir. He does get a good amount of damage on our King Tower there, but the damage is going to even out, and that's going to be no problem there. So, okay, we outcycled his Inferno Tower here. We're going to go with a HOG Rider, and let's see how this plays out. He drops the Mini P.E.KKA, but I think we don't get a hit. Okay, so now we're in a bit of a tricky situation. Okay, we've got the Mini P.E.KKA and the E-Golem coming down. But just like we dealt with the Sparky earlier, we're just going to rocket that Mini P.E.KKA. If you play this deck, you're going to have to learn how not only to use the Rocket in offensive situations, like to get King Tower damage or Crown Tower damage, but you're going to have to use the Rocket in defensive situations, especially if you're playing things such as Sparky, Balloon, or if they are playing like the typical E-Golem decks with the Battle Healer and the Baby Drag and all that kind of stuff. Once they pile up a lot of troops at the bridge that you know you're not going to be able to defend just with the Mini P.E.KKA or the Princess, you know you're going to have to use your Rocket on defense. Rocket is a great defensive card. It's one of the best defensive spells in the game. And right there, guys, we get his tower down to below Rocket range, and we're just going to give him some of that BM back. I don't know what you guys feel about BM, but I am kind of a BMer. I'm not really ashamed of it, especially when people BM me. I try to be a good sport a lot of the times, but if you're BMing me and I come back and win on you like that, especially when you're playing something like Elixir Golem, I'm definitely going to give you some of that BM back. So let's just go ahead and get into this next matchup, which is a pretty awesome game. So let's get into this one. All right, guys. So getting into this next game, we've got kind of a aggravating witch goblin hut deck, kind of a spammy deck. I don't know what you guys feel about goblin hut, but I'm seeing it everywhere right now. It's just a really aggravating, annoying card that is meta right now, and furnace as well. It's also in the meta. I'm gonna rocket that furnace right there just because I didn't want to take unnecessary chip on that left hand side, and we're just kind of feeling each other's decks out. I don't really know what he has. We're going to throw down a princess to deal with that right side, but he will tornado that. We're going to shield our tower with the ice golem here, and just kind of seeing what he has in his deck. Kind of a weird deck, but it is a very hard deck to play against, especially if you're using something like Hog Rider like we got. He's got double buildings, he's got tornado, and he's got PEKKA. So I am going to give him the spammy laugh right there. He's just got so many great answers for us, and we realize that it's just going to be a super aggravating matchup. But let's just see how we answer what he's got. So we're about a minute and 10 seconds into this match. We're going to get some princess tower damage right there. Yeah, guys, you can, with princess in this deck, I'd say about 70% of the time you're going to want to play princess kind of defensively, kind of like in bait. You play princess defensively most of the time, but if you know that your opponent doesn't have a good answer in their hand right now to deal with your princess, you can play it aggressively at the bridge. But if you're playing a deck like I'm playing right now, like I'm playing against, with like the Goblin Hut, you're not going to be able to get like that princess damage when they have a building down like that. So that is an aggravating thing to take into account when you're playing decks like that have double buildings or something like that. So right there, guys, we're kind of in trouble. We actually used our we forgot that he had PEKKA in the deck, and we used our ice golem. And usually if you're playing someone with PEKKA, you're going to want to save that ice golem to kite the PEKKA to the opposite lane. But luckily we hit double elixir time, and we had enough elixir in our hand to deal with that PEKKA even without the ice golem. So we got the Dark Prince coming our way right now. We're going to shield him with the princess. In this deck, guys, when you start stacking up double princesses like I have on the map right there, you're going to, in certain situations, you're going to want to defend your princesses because it gets really aggravating for your opponent when you start stacking up multiple princesses. Just because, just like in a bait deck, when you have multiple princesses stacked on the map, it forces an answer out of your opponent, and that's elixir that's going towards killing those princesses that they could have used elsewhere. So it's just a really aggravating thing for your opponent to deal with, and if they don't have a small spell that instantly kills princess, then it can get really tricky for them. So there, guys, you see my placement with the ice golem. You're going to place them right in that middle to the right tile to kite that PEKKA. And you're going to need to learn that placement if you're playing a deck with Ice Golem, because that is pretty much the best thing about Ice Golem. It's almost more of a defensive. It definitely is more of a defensive card than it is an offensive card. Ice Golem is one of the best counters to pick in the game. And right here, guys, look at this. We find out that he has Mirror. He double Pekkas us. And we're like, oh, wow. Like, I mean, that's a pretty scary looking push. But you just place that. You place the Ice Golem to kite. We kite both of those Pekkas at the same time. We got our princesses down at the bottom in the middle of the map, just peppering those Pekkas, and that defense was almost no problem for us. So we're going to Ice Golem to shield there, and I think he has about 100 damage advantage on us right here. At this moment, guys, we're like, oh, crap. You know, it's just really hard to break through his deck. He's got the PEKKA, he's got the double buildings, and he's got Tornado. So buildings and tornado they're just great answers to Hog, and PEKKA is a great answer to Hog. So this deck is just really aggravating to try and break through. Right here, I believe we go with a rocket. Yeah, so like I was saying earlier about the defensive rocket, guys, he had a PEKKA and a witch and a Dark Prince on us right there. So we just knew that a mini PEKKA was going to get slaughtered if we tried to deal with that push just with the mini PEKKA. So we had to go in with the rocket, and we hit the we hit the P.E.K.K.A and the Witch with that rocket, so that was a nice counter to what he just played on us. We're just going to keep stacking princesses. Princess is going to be the best answer to Witch in this deck, guys. Either the princess or the rocket. And right here, guys, we just find out that he has rocket. And look at this, guys. Look at this. He's going to try and mirror rocket us. And boom, right at the end of the match, we have 30 damage on his tower. We have 150 on ours. And we barely squeak out that win with the last second rocket. So just a crazy game there, guys. If you're playing a deck that you can't break through, but you already have kind of a little bit of a damage lead on them from single elixir, and double elixir hits, and you just can't break through their deck, guys, sometimes you're just going to have to play it so defensively, and then when that triple, double, and triple elixir starts to hit, especially triple elixir, like late triple elixir, you can get out 2 rockets in a matter of like 10 seconds, guys. So you're going to have to learn how to rocket cycle with this deck, especially for those decks that you just can't find an effective way to break through. And for the decks that you can't find an effective way to break through, you need to realize it's going to be much harder in double elixir because they're just going to have so much more answers readily available. So let's just go ahead and get into this next matchup, guys. So getting into this next matchup, we got a Hog Rider, E-Barb, kind of weird spammy deck, bridge spammy deck. He's got the Valkyrie, he's got Inferno Tower. Inferno Tower is a great answer to Hog Rider. Tesla's probably a little bit better of an answer, but Inferno Tower still does really well. So let's see how we break through this deck, guys. E-Barbs are just a really frustrating card right now. I don't know how you guys feel about them. I want them to get a nerf. I want this card, Mother Witch, and Goblin Hunt to get a nerf. I just think they're way too strong right now. You see them everywhere in almost every deck you play against. You'll see E-Barbs or Mother Witch. They're just broken cards, and I really want them to get a nerf. You just get way too much defensive value out of them, and then they're so hard to answer on offense, and they're just no skill cards, and they're really easy to play, so I would like to see them nerfed. But anyways, let's see how we break through. It's just going to be really hard to break through in this matchup, guys. So we already got about a 1,000 damage deficit on us right here. And look at this, guys. This is kind of a turning point right here. He has a Valkyrie and the E-Wiz coming at us in opposite lanes. And we deal with 8 elixir with a 2 elixir card. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about with that Ice Golem. We just dealt with 8 elixir with 2 elixir. So that was a 6 elixir exchange. Now we're going to deal with that Hog Rider with a mini P.E.K.K.A. And look at our elixir advantage. We have a mini P.E.K.K.A on the map, and we have a 2 elixir advantage. So he has to deal with that mini P.E.K.K.A. And we know he's down a lot of elixir. So we go Ice Golem, Hog Rider, and that's just going to be a ton of damage. So guys, that amount of damage that I'm getting right now is all due to the fact that I was able to defend that Valkyrie and that E-Wiz with just a 2 elixir card. So that was all thanks to the Ice Golem. That's just an example of how good of a card Ice Golem is and how defensive of a card it is. So you're going to really need to know how to effectively kite units like you just saw me do in that exchange. And yeah, let's just get into the latter half of this match. We got about 50 seconds left until the game's over, and we're just going to deal with those E-Barbs with those bats right there. He's going to get a nice log, and we're going to go with a Hog Rider, bait out the Inferno Tower. And guys, this is a fast cycle deck, so we have a much faster cycle than him. So he just used his Inferno Tower, and look at this. We're already back to another Hog Rider by cycling cards like Bats and Ice Spirit. We know he doesn't have his Inferno Tower in hand right now, and I think we're about to go in with another Hog Rider maybe. Actually, I'm kind of being stupid right now. I realize that I have Rocket in the deck. So if you get in a situation, I think Rocket is 528 tower damage. So if you get in a situation where you can defend your opponent easily, and you are within 1 rocket away from winning the game, you're just going to want to defend until the game is over. And you can get an easy win with that rocket like you just saw me do with that guy. So yeah, it's totally fine to rocket cycle your opponent out at the end of the game, and that is a completely valid way to win. You do need to be just a little bit careful when rocket cycling with this deck, because you don't have a building like you do with like the original log bait deck. So it's a little bit more dangerous of a deck to rocket cycle with, just because you don't have quite as strong of a defense. It is a pretty good defensive deck, but it's more of an offensive high pressure deck. So if you're going to rocket cycle, you need to make sure you're in a safe situation, where you might have one or two princesses built up on the map. You have ways to counter whatever win condition your opponent has. So just if you are going to rocket cycle, make sure it's a safe situation to where you can do it, and just realize that this deck isn't a pure rocket cycle deck like something like log bait is. You can play log bait like just a pure rocket cycle and be totally fine. And there are going to be games with this deck where you completely just win by rocket cycling, but it's not as common as something like log bait. So just keep that in mind, guys. So getting into this last matchup, we are playing against Golem. Golem is one of the hardest matchups with this deck, because most of the time Golem has something like lightning, or just all the bats and stuff like that. They always have a way to deal with your princess. So with the Night Witch bats, it's going to be kind of aggravating dealing with those cards. And when they just build up those massive pushes, it's going to be really hard to deal with, even though you do have the mini P.E.K.K.A. But again, like this guy, he's got lightning. So lightning is a great answer to mini P.E.K.K.A. And it's going to be really aggravating defending some of those big golem pushes. With the golem matches, you need to get a big advantage on them in single elixir. I'm not saying that you can't beat them in double elixir, but you really need to pay attention to the single elixir, because you have such a fast cycle advantage over them. You're going to be able to break through much better in single elixir and get big damage advantages on your opponent. So that's definitely the best way to win against Golem, is to just completely outplay them in the single elixir. If you'll see here, we're going to use that Ice Golem on defense again to deal with that Night Witch. I actually meant to kite that Night Witch, but I missed it. But Ice Golem still deals with Night Witch pretty well, even if you don't kite her. And he's got about a 2 elixir advantage on him, but we got a pretty large damage advantage. He's going to go in with kind of a bomber. I think he might have thought we were going to play Princess at the Bridge there, so that was kind of a mistake on his part. Another thing, guys, is if you can, you want to get as much log chip with this deck as you can, just because at the end of the match, when you get towards that rocket range to where you can win the game with a rocket, all those logs that you get on your opponent's tower really adds up, and it's going to help you get within rocket range to win the game. So right here, we're going to get a hog hit. He's got a prince coming towards us. So that was kind of a well-timed prince on his part. We are going to kite the prince with the princess. With the ice golem there. And most of the time when I kite things such as prince, so kiting something like a prince is going to deal with that ice golem much quicker than something like a Valkyrie or ice golem. A mini P.E.K.K.A. So when you kite something like a P.E.K.K.A. or a prince, something a little heavier and something that hits harder, you're going to want to kite them, and then you're going to want to place that princess at the bottom of your, right in front of your king tower, so that princess can be peppering the troop that you're kiting and take care of it effectively. So we're just gonna let that princess die here, guys. So that'll stop the prince's charge. Prince is his best answer to Hog Rider in this deck. I think we get 2 hog hits. Oh no, just 1 hog hit, but we do get a nice princess hit there. And we just need about 250 more damage for rocket range. Now, since we've logged on his tower, about 150 damage away. And yeah, guys, really, you just want to be conscious about not letting them build up massive golem pushes. Since you have the mini P.E.K.K.A. in this deck and the Hog Rider, you can opposite lane pressure in this deck like crazy. So as you can see in that matchup, he was just never able to build up one of those massive golem pushes, and that's how we were able to beat him so easily there. And we just kept on chipping and chipping and chipping away, 1 or 2 hog hits there, 1 or 2 hog hits in another place, and that damage adds up. You will get matchups to where, you just catch the opponent out of elixir or without a good counter in their hand, and you just completely wipe their tower out. But in the fast hog cycle decks like this in 2.6, you're going to rely on just kind of one hog hit. That's a successful push, unless it just leaves you in a completely terrible situation. But you're just looking for 1 to 2 hog hits at a time. It is nice if you can get a large amount of damage, but if you get 1 to 2 hog hits, that's a completely great damage output right there. And you're just looking to get at least to 2 rocket range. And then if it's a deck that you can't break through effectively, like they have a building and tornado, like an expo deck or something like that, you're going to want to get a good damage advantage early on and then just defend until that triple elixir time and finish it off with 1 or 2 rockets. Remember the log chip damage as well. That'll help you get within that rocket range so you can finish them off at the end of the game. Again, guys, this is my probably top 3 decks for me. It's just a really fun deck. It's not my best deck, but it is probably the funnest deck in the game for me to play. Just so many ways you can play the deck. You can play it defensively. You can play it super offensively. You can split push with it with the there's just so many fun combinations. You got the bats, mini P.E.K.K.A, Ice Golem, Ice Golem Hog, Ice Golem Hog bats, Ice Golem mini P.E.K.K.A bats. I mean, there's just so many options. You can princess defensively, princess at the bridge, rocket offensively, rocket defensively. There's just a lot of different ways to play this deck, and it requires a lot of thought process into it. And it's going to make this deck, if you play it a lot, it will make you much better at the game. And yeah, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed the content. Please like, subscribe, share the video, guys, if you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, please be sure to comment below. Tell me what I could have done better to keep you coming back for the next one. And until next time, guys, take it easy.